Clauses are the building blocks of sentences, and they're pretty easy to understand. They're a group of words that has both a subject and a verb. The catch is that there's two different kinds. The first kind is a dependent clause, which means even though it's got a subject and a verb, it can't stand alone. Something like she threw. So she is our subject, threw is our verb, but through requires us to kind of finish the thought here, and it's not finished, so we've got a dependent clause. The other kind of dependent clause that we see often is one that starts with a word like because or since or whether, which is one of those subordinating conjunctions. And we've got, because we have that word, and we have a finished clause here, I woke up early, so I've got a subject and a verb. This subordinating conjunction requires a finishing of the thought. And if it doesn't get finished, it's a dependent clause. The other kind of clause we have is, shockingly, the independent clause, which means it can stand alone. So we've got a subject and a verb, and we've got a completion of thought. Something like she threw her back out, or because I woke up early, I got a lot done. So those both can stand by themselves. Let's take a look and see if we can identify which of these are independent clauses and which are dependent clauses. And if we find some dependent ones, let's go ahead and make them independent. So we've got I flew all the way home. I is our subject, it's what's doing the action. What's I doing? I is flying. And then we've got a completion of thought. I flew where? I flew all the way home. So we've got an independent clause here. All right. Since I was on vacation. We've got a subject, I, and I was in a state of being, and they were on vacation. But I've got this word since that begs more information. So I've got a dependent clause. And the easy way to fix a dependent clause that starts with one of those subordinating conjunctions is just to hook it up to an independent clause. So we can say, since I was on vacation, comma, I caught up on my sleep. Since I caught up on my sleep is an independent clause, it can stand on its own. Once it's hooked up to a dependent clause, we're good to go. All right, laughter, I often think. Now, this is kind of an odd structure, but it gets used sometimes. We've got this subject, and we've got a verb, thinking here. But this word at the beginning, laughter, throws us off just a little bit. So we've got, I often think, laughter is an object over here, and it requires us to finish the thought. So what about laughter do you often think? So laughter, I often think, is the best medicine. And that completes the thought there. So we turned a dependent clause into an independent clause by completing the object. And then finally, and I left. Now, your inclination might be to say dependent clause, because I've had teachers who told me I can never start a sentence with the word and, or but, or so. And the truth is, that's not true. And is a coordinating conjunction, one of the fanboys. And anytime you start a sentence with it, as long as you have a subject and a verb following it, you're good to go. So this is an independent clause as it stands. So hopefully now you've got kind of the tools to be able to identify independent from dependent clauses, and this will help you with your sentence structure, subject-verb agreement, and all sorts of things.